Welcome back, everybody, to the Chris Salcedo Show. We're now joined by Brad Micklin. He's been a trial attorney for more than 20 years. He's here to help us break down the impeachment trial. It's going to take place next week. I hear it's Tuesday. Sir, thank you very much for joining us here on the Salcedo Show.
Thanks, Chris, for having me tonight.
Impeachment finally makes its way to the Senate. Walk us through the nuts and bolts. How's this all going to go?
It's a really challenging question now, and I think most people are still debating it, even the senators that are going to hear this trial. I mean, the semantics of it will be that the articles get delivered tonight. The Chief Justice will take a part in deciding issues of relevance and procedure. And the Senate will then, of course, have to decide on how we're going to proceed, whether there's going to be witnesses or not. But right now, the only thing that's going to happen is the delivery. We're not really sure what the Senate's going to do as far as a procedure.
Okay. Will this look like more like a Bill Clinton type trial where they started it with just hearing the case, the prosecutors coming over from the House, and then the president's defense, and then making up their minds later if they need to hear additional witnesses? Or will this be like what the Democrats want, another unfair process where the Senate insists on calling witnesses right up front to continue to do more of the Democrats' work they didn't do in the House?
I think the process is going to be different from the Clinton impeachment, because with the Clinton impeachment, we had the Starr report, which had a significant amount of evidence, testimony, and support. Here we don't have that. And I'm not sure, and I haven't heard a lot of people suspect that the Senate's going to be seeking so much more than what's being presented, because it just makes it more challenging to make a decision that I think most of us agree is towards a dismissal or an acquittal of the charge.
Yeah, there's a lot of history going on with this trial. This is the first time a president has been impeached without ever committing an underlying crime. Speak to that for a moment.
Well, it's a challenging question and an interesting one, because if you go back to the Nixon impeachment, he was charged with very similar actions, almost identical. But the distinct difference in that impeachment was the House had gone to the Supreme Court because Nixon refused to turn over tapes and comply with subpoenas. The Supreme Court ruled that was inappropriate. So the House was able to take that ruling and charge him with obstruction of justice. Here, we don't have that, and I think that was intentional. The whole separation of powers required that the House go to Supreme Court to challenge whether or not the president could refuse subpoena or witnesses or testimony. That wasn't done, which is why we rushed through this whole sham.
Yeah, another bit of history. To my knowledge, we've never had a prosecutor in an impeachment who's actually a material witness. The lead prosecutor is Adam Schiff, and he is a material witness in this impeachment, what I would call a farce, because he and his office colluded with and had contact with what I call a felonious leaker, what the Democrats call a whistleblower.
And that's why you see such opposition to the question of how the Senate's going to have the trial, whether they're going to call witnesses or not. They don't want to see the whistleblower come. They don't want to see Hunter Biden called. They want to keep under wraps whatever it was that they used to push this through so that we can't discover that it was a sham. Because aside from the dismissal or acquittal, there's still going to be a question of the integrity of the process itself and whether the House should be held accountable for it in any way once this is over.
Yeah, Gerald Nadler tried to make the case that the process itself in the House wasn't subject to the trial. And, you know, every trial in America, if you're being falsely prosecuted, that is admissible. And Gerald Nadler and Adam Schiff and Nancy Pelosi have, in my opinion, have conducted malfeasance and need to be held accountable. That's very much part of the trial, is it not?
I think entirely. And I think that's why we saw such a delay in delivering of the impeachment articles. Pelosi and the House know that there's going to be questions about how the trial is committed or conducted, but the Constitution is clear, unequivocally clear. The Senate decides how to hold it. So for the House to say, well, we want to make sure the trial is fair, by whose definition? It couldn't be by theirs. It has to be by the Senate. So the whole delay was just another sham because they thought it would give some PR power, some public relations power to the process, but I think they actually lost footing both with their own party as well as the nation supporting Trump.
What does your gut tell you? Are we going to have a in and out type impeachment trial? Are we going to have a prolonged trial with a myriad witnesses? Which way do you think this will break?
I think we're going to have a little bit of both. I think on the outside, we're going to see the whole public relations farce that has been going on this whole time. The House will continue to criticize the Senate for everything that they do or don't do, every decision they make or don't make, because they want to be able to say at the end of the process, assuming and expecting there's going to be an exoneration or a dismissal, they want to be able to say, see, we told you so. Every time that we argued against the decision, the Senate didn't listen to us, and that's why there was the acquittal. And the Senate's going to spend a lot of time, unfortunately, I think, battling that rhetoric when they shouldn't. They should just stay focused on keeping the process, keeping it clear, informing the U.S. citizens, and moving forward so we can get through this.
Yeah, politically speaking, for one, I just hope it goes out for months so we can take 3 Democrat presidential candidates off the campaign trail. I'm all for that. And my last question to you is a political nature. Now that the Democrats have mainstreamed taking out a president, impeaching a president based purely on politics, I, for one, as a conservative, am looking forward to taking out the next Democrat president, impeaching him or her because I disagree with him or her. How much damage have the Democrats done to national unity, to our Constitution, with this type of impeachment they've undertaken?
There's definitely some damage. Like I said, the Nixon impeachment had similar charges but had a significant amount of weight and it adhered to the separation of powers doctrine. Hopefully, and again, presuming there is a dismissal or acquittal, it will allow us to go back and revisit the steps that led up to this so that we can make sure it doesn't happen again, so that in the long term, I don't think it's going to have a great impact because, for instance, nobody even talked about Clinton's impeachment when you talk about his legacy until this impeachment came up. So as long as it's dismissed or he's acquitted, I don't think the damage is going to be as significant as a lot of people think.
Mr. Micklin, thank you very much. Appreciate your time here on the Chris Salcedo Show.